Welcome back into the Viking Central podcast. We are going to talk a little bit about the secondary today and what we need to do to improve the secondary, especially after Mekhi Blackman's injury yesterday at training camp, torn ACL. But before we hop into the video, I do want to shout out our sponsor. That's Badass WOODART. Use code VC15 for 15% off your order. Custom WOODART pieces. You can see the skull sign above the Tommy Kramer jersey. Luis does an amazing job. I'll put the link in the description. Use code VC15 for 15% off your order. Yesterday, going back to training camp here, torn ACL, first day, Mekhi Blackman, not good. Just a horrible injury. And obviously, a month or so ago now, Kyrie Jackson passes away tragically. Just a horrible situation there, with the car accident. So just horrible situation there. And now, on a much lesser scale, Mekhi Blackman tears his ACL. It's just, the Vikings are going to have to do something at the position if it's adding a veteran. And that's kind of what I'm going to focus on today is adding a veteran to that group. And there is a couple options. The most obvious option is probably going to be Xavier Howard. His name has been, brought up multiple times, a lot of times, especially on like social media. Not so much, with like beat reporters or anyone that covers the Vikings, but that he could be a possible guy to fill in, a veteran guy. He's still relatively young. I think he's right around the 30 years old, but there's some weird allegations going on right now around Xavier Howard. There's also rumors that his knees are just not the best. He's getting up there in age. People say he's washed up. So, it could be a situation where they might just stay away from Xavier Howard, injury concerns. And then I'm not going to get into the allegations because they are pretty serious. If they're true or not, it's not up to me to figure out, but I'm going to stay away from elaborating on that anymore. But, Xavier Howard could be an option if they do want to go that route, but it's probably one of these other two guys. I really like Stephon Gilmore. He is turning 34 years old here in September. He is on, if he's signed with the Vikings, we'd be the 5th team in 5 years, I believe. Patriots, Cowboys, Colts. There was one more in there as well. That he's just kind of been bouncing around. And, it's the latter part of his career, so it makes sense. But, if he came in with a 1-year contract and just, he's probably not going to play a ton of snaps, but just for some depth, some veteran leadership, and a guy that's, been there before, I would not be against that. And Brian Flores and Stephon Gilmore, they kind of cross paths in New England. I believe Flores was part of that defensive staff. He might have been a linebackers or I don't know if he was a secondary coach. He might have been a linebackers coach in New England at that time. But Stephon Gilmore, a guy that I could see, coming over here and just being, that veteran that could hop right in and, make a difference. My other corner that I was thinking about, JC Jackson, these are 3 players that have really played at a high level in previous seasons. And JC Jackson, from 2020 to 2021, he had 17 interceptions. I think 9 interceptions in 2020, 8 in 2021, which is just wild. I think he led the league in interceptions those both years. So he's a ball hawk. But ever since he signed that deal with the Chargers, it just hasn't been the same. He hasn't, played up to the level that he did his first couple years. So, bring him over here, get Flores' hands on him. He's only 28 years old. I think that probably would be my favorite signing of the 3. Just because he has some tread left on the tires. He's a talented kid, a ball hawk, but at the same time, I think there might have been some locker room issues as well in Los Angeles with the Chargers. So I don't know if that could switch any things. Kwesi and Kevin, they always talk about culture, and they don't want to bring anyone in that changes the culture in a bad way. So, between Xavier Howard, Stephon Gilmore, and JC Jackson, who do you kind of think the Vikings could go after, and who would you want them to go after? In my opinion, is JC Jackson. But before we do end the video, I want to shout out our other sponsor, PLAYBOOK Products. They make custom coasters, custom coffee mugs, custom shirts of all the historical plays in Vikings history and other teams' histories as well. So like the Minneapolis Miracle, Adrian Peterson's 296-yard game versus the Chargers. Just an incredible company that just does a lot of cool things. Use code Viking Central, all one word, for 20% off your order at checkout. I'll also put that link in the description. But obviously, the Vikings got to do something with that secondary. It's getting a little thin. Shaq Griffin, Byron Murphy Jr. Then you got a couple unproven guys. Andrew Booth Jr. Can he make a difference? You got a Caleb Evans still. He's had an up and down career so far. I do like Dwight McGlothern, who was UDFA this past year, but he's lengthy. He's still raw, but you never know. Brian Flores can turn these guys into something, and that might be what he has to do to get the most out of the secondary this year. But thanks again for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. It's gonna be interesting to see what the Vikings do with the secondary here in the coming weeks before week 1. God bless.